D&D has many monsters capable of causing absolute fear and disgust in players, but only a few continue to do so consistently no matter which table they're played at. Creations so cursed, they make you question the sanity of the game designers and of your DM for using them. Bonjour! In today's video, we're going to go over 7 of the most cursed monsters in D&D, in no particular order. First up, the Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. Yes, that's a real name. This monster is from AD&D and is proof that old school D&D was wild. Picture this, you are in a peaceful meadow, the birds are chirping, rabbits are playing around, and one of those adorable little things is sitting atop a tree stump, scratching its head with its hind leg. Rygor the druid sees the bunny and wants to pet it, because come on, who wouldn't? And as he reaches his hand out, he hears a thud, only to look down and see his arm on the floor and a geyser of blood erupting from his shoulder. As he screams for help, he looks behind him and sees the rest of the party getting choked to death as razor-sharp tendrils wrap around their necks. Amidst this nightmare, the birds are still chirping, a deep red glow in their eyes, awaiting their next meal. Talk about a dream picnic, huh? So if you're not sure what the monster was here, I don't blame you. Let me give you a hint. It's not the birds. Actually, the tree stump with a bunny on top is a carnivorous plant aberration with tendrils hidden on the ground waiting to cut you. Most players expect a mimic in a dungeon, not in nature. Hence the name Wolves in Sheep's Clothing. Lore-wise, we don't have much. We just know it's not part of the world's natural ecosystem. So when I use it in my games, I just say that it's an invasive alien species. And the reason why this monster is on this list. The Wolves in Sheep's Clothing lays eggs in the corpses of adventurers it kills to reproduce. You know what? Hans, give me the flamer. The heavy flamer. Next up, the False Hydra. Before I go in depth about it, if you could hit that like and subscribe button. It's a great way to let us know that you enjoy this type of content and want to see more of it. Before we start, if you're a player and you've never heard of the False Hydra and you do not intend to DM, please skip to the next monster. Trust me on this one, I'm doing you a favor. One of my biggest regrets in D&D is that I'll never get to really experience a False Hydra because I knew what it was before I got to be in an adventure that faced one of them. So, see you at this timestamp. Alright, now that they're gone, let's dive in. The False Hydra, unlike the other monsters on this list, is not an official D&D monster and probably never will be, because it's not WotC that came up with it. Fun fact, the people who originally created the False Hydra, the Goblin Punch blog, used images of the Dead Hand boss fight from Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time to illustrate the monster. And this shit absolutely terrified me when I was a kid. So I get to relive all that horror anytime I see fan art of that godforsaken monster, especially while doing research for this video. Love it. Anyway, I think the best way for me to explain that monster is to walk you through the scenario I usually run for my players. After a tough adventuring day, the party finally makes it back to the hometown of their fighter, Arthur. There, to commemorate the party's heroic takedown of the monsters terrorizing the region, monsters that kidnapped so many of the citizens, a painter meets with them to create a portrait of the whole group. It will take a bit of time to finish, so they decide to go and rest at the inn and meet with him again the next day. They sleep, and in the morning, they wake up and walk around town and notice the damage that those monsters inflicted. Indeed, despite the city being fairly big, most of the houses are empty. They walk around until they get to the fighter's childhood home, where the parents are buried in the garden. As they enter, they see the living room, the parents' room, the room Arthur grew up in, and the guest room. They notice that the guest room is filled with various trinkets and toys. It also has a desk with a drawer, and in it they find a letter which says, "I miss you, brother." Which is strange because Arthur grew up without any siblings. It's probably a letter forgotten by one of the guests, the party figures. It is now the afternoon and they decide to walk back to the inn and back to their room. And there is the portrait left by the painter, a drape covering it. As they pull the drape off, they reveal the painting beneath and see themselves painted. But something is off. There is someone else on that painting with them, someone they've never met before. Even weirder, that stranger is holding the same staff that is currently on the cleric's back. And that's usually the point where players realize that there is something very wrong going on. The whole point of the false Hydra is that when it kills you, it also erases your existence. Everyone who knew you forgets you ever existed. Parents will forget their children, and wives will forget their husbands. Instead, people are left to fill the void of your existence by other likely explanations. Basically, this is the monster that allows you to gaslight your players as much as you want. What do you mean you bought your weapons from the blacksmith? There is no blacksmith. You bought them from a traveling merchant. Check your notes. Oh, you want to go and check the forge? Go ahead. The forge is cold and no one is there. What did I tell you? There are a couple of ways to run the false Hydra. The most common one is to tie it to a song. And as long as you hear it, you forget that the Hydra or anyone that it kills ever existed. In game, you can use a song like Baby Shark do 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 do, Baby Shark do 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 do, Mommy Shark do 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 do, please don't put that in the video. Okay, maybe not that song. But Shadow Temple from Zelda Ocarina of Time works wonders. My personal favorite go-to is to play white noise and overlay it atop the background music that is currently playing. It's subtle enough that players don't pick up on it immediately, but as they get closer to the Hydra, you diminish the background music and you increase the intensity of the white noise. It's creepy as hell, but it works great. The other way of running a false Hydra is to not tie it to a song at all and make the effect permanent. If the Hydra kills someone, that person is gone from existence until the Hydra is killed, and that's final. You can find plenty of stat blocks online for both versions of running the monster, and if you head to my Patreon, you can see my own fucked up version of it. Next up, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. The Gas Spore. It's also an old school D&D monster, but this one is more of a trap than a monster, and a personal favorite of mine. Because it tends to fly under the radar, meaning that it works great even against veteran players. This floating fungal orb looks just like a beholder from afar, with fake eye stalks and everything, tricking you into thinking that you're actually facing the deadly eyeball tyrant. But it is meant to trap your players. It has an absolutely abysmal perception, meaning that your players will see it before it sees them. From here, two things will happen. One, the party decides that they are not at the level at which they can take on a beholder. So they'll try to take another path, which means a longer route, which means more potential encounters. Two, the party sees that they can get the drop on a beholder and decide to surprise attack it. Slight problem with option 2. This thing only has one hit point and then pops like a balloon, exploding in a massive cloud of poisonous spores that burn your skin and infecting you with a disease that spawns more gas spores from your corpse. I don't know what it is with old school D&D monsters and using your corpse as part of their reproductive cycle, but Jesus! The funny thing is that this monster only has a CR of 1.5, but the explosion is super powerful. So if you were to use it against a level 1 party, the chances of causing a TPK are super high. But the fun with this plant doesn't stop here, because once your players have encountered the gas spore a few times, they'll realize that it's never a beholder and always a stupid plant, so they'll just safely shoot it from a distance. And that's where you can be an absolute dick. And you drop in an actual beholder that will be very angry at them for shooting it and will laser them with death rays. The best part is that you can steal that mechanic for any other monster. For example, if you're afraid that your players will have watched this video, instead of making a gas spore copy of Beholder, you can say that in your world, the gas spores copy, for example, owlbears. Fun times! Next on our list, the Oblex. This is a personal favorite of mine that turns your player's paranoia up to 11. It comes from Mordekainen's Tome of Foes and specifically was created by a kid. Nolan Whale, through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, asked to spend a day with the D&D design team. And he came up with this monster idea that was so good that the design team decided to make it an official monster. Approved! For context, while he was busy creating one of the most iconic D&D monsters out there, at his age I was busy debating whether the username XXDarkSasukeXX was cool enough. Yeah. Yeah, we're not all made the same, are we? Anyway, let me explain how the Oblex works. Your adventuring party is back in town after an exhausting day clearing out a bandit camp. They decide that a rest is well deserved and head to their favorite inn. The innkeeper is happy to see them and asks them how their adventure has been. He's behind the counter and is busy cracking jokes with the waiter that's currently serving the various clients. But then, mid-conversation, the innkeeper cracks a joke and his face cracks too, as the waiter lets out a wet, gurgling cough. Before the party can react, the innkeeper's arm lashes out. Not with a handshake, but with a slimy pseudopod that slams into the wizard and knocks her out on the floor. The waiter's body ripples, melting into a gooey mess as it lunges, revealing itself as another extension of the same creature. As the party looks around for help, they see one of the customers walk into the door and locking it, before his skin melts, turning into crimson ooze alongside the rest of the customers. A monster that's been lurking there the whole time, piloting the entire ambush. This is an Oblex, a highly intelligent shape-shifting ooze that devours people, slurps their memories like a milkshake, and then spits out perfect slime duplicates tethered to its main body. These clones act just like the originals, but not only do they have the same voice and mannerisms, they also have the same knowledge, which makes them way more dangerous than regular shapeshifters. Its only limitation is that those clones can never be more than 120 feet away from the main body. But even that is not really a drawback. More on that in a second. It's like a living phishing scam, but instead of stealing your identity, it steals, well, your identity, but also your life. Oblexes... Oblex? Come in different sizes, all the way from CR 1/4, where they're tiny ones and they can only copy one person, all the way to elder ones, which are CR 10 and can copy almost an entire village. Keep in mind, the elder Oblex can copy up to 13 person, so the inn scenario that I described earlier is perfectly feasible. And you can make it worse. Put a couple of Oblexes in a village and they could replace the entire population, making for a creepy Twilight Zone episode where an entire town is alive and well, but nobody ever moves from where they are. Lore-wise, these things were created by mind flayers to be used as spies, because it had to be the brain-eating race to invent something that awful. What makes the Oblex absolutely cursed is how it weaponizes trusts, because it can replicate any NPC. That very precious ally that you had, the one you've been telling about the Mind Flayer invasion, he's an Oblex now, and the Mind Flayers know everything about your plans. And why is there a straw in my brain? An Oblex is super hard to detect as well, because the only giveaway that the person you're talking to is not actually a person, but an Oblex, is that they slightly smell of sulfur. But that's not actually a problem, because Oblexes can innately cast hallucinatory terrain, a spell which can change the smell of an area. So now it just smells like spices, and you can't even use True Sight because that doesn't work on scent. In combat, it's nasty too. The Oblex lashes out with pseudopods that drain your intelligence on every hit, making you dumber with every single strike. Not that you need much help with that. And its Eat Memories ability inflicts massive psychic damage while ripping away chunks of your past, leaving you very confused and possibly sending you back all the way to potty training. And remember how I said that its clones are considered extensions of itself? Well, that means that it can attack from multiple places at once. So overall, an absolute nightmare of a monster. But be careful, because once you use an Oblex once, your players will not trust a single NPC until the end of that campaign. Next up is a monster that should have been an honorable mention because it doesn't have a stat block.
Honorable mention.
But since it's an official monster, and I really like it, it will get its own section. I know, official and no stat block sounds very paradoxical, but let me explain. The Bagman is an urban legend from Van Richten's guide, which does mention the monster without giving it stats. Evan, what is in that urban legend, I hear you say? He once was an adventurer who tried to escape doom by hiding inside of a bag of holding, abandoning the rest of the party. But when he tried to leave, he couldn't, and instead he remained trapped, forced to travel in between various extra-dimensional storages. Over time, the strange forces from these dimensions didn't kill him, but rather turned him into a grotesque monstrosity. Now every night, the Bagman escapes from a bag of holding, ready to hunt, and dragging back his prey along with him in the bag, leaving behind only a trinket from his hidden kingdom. Some say that if you speak, "Follow my voice" 3 times in front of an open bag of holding, the Bagman will come for you. It's basically the legend of the Bloody Mary, but instead of saying her name 3 times in front of a mirror, you say it in front of a bag of holding. I just really love this monster because you can create so many memorable moments out of it. For example, right after the party acquires their first bag of holding, people start to randomly go missing in the various towns they visit, making everyone very suspicious of them and leaving the party very confused. Or if your party decides to hide someone inside of a bag of holding, they'll have a terrible realization when nobody comes back up. Or funnier still, when they go and reach out for an object inside of the bag of holding, it's not an item that they grab, but rather another hand that pulls them inside. There's a lot of people that made custom stat blocks for it, and honestly the idea is so cursed that it deserved a mention. Next up, the Penitent. This is one of my favorites when it comes to body horror. Unlike the other monsters on this list, this one is not meant to create some terrifying psychological horror for your party to slowly unravel, but rather the opposite, creating horror suddenly right in the middle of combat. From its appearance, it has a body that is a grotesque mosaic of mismatched limbs, some human, some not, all latched together by some sinewy tendrils. So it does look somewhat cursed, but nothing too extreme. But after combat starts, that's when the horror sets in. When the Penitent takes damage by threshold, it will lose limbs. Not unlike the Black Knight from Monty Python, but unlike the Black Knight, for him it really is just a flesh wound, and payback is coming. It will sacrifice one of the hands from its crucible, and from the earth, hundreds of hands will erupt, restraining the entire party and forcing their eyes to stay open. Then, the party will be forced to watch as the Paladin's eyes will go fuzzy and it will extend its arm, the Penitent raising its great sword and cutting it clean off. It will then replace its own missing limb with it and heal the damage you worked so hard to deal. It is from Steinhardt's Guide to the Eldritch Hunt, so I might be a bit biased. But in my defense, anytime I use it against my players, the reaction is always good times. Next up, the Leucrota. Leucrota? Habarnam. A twisted, sadistic beast from the monster manual. So not only is this monster's appearance cursed, but more on that later, what it does will also haunt your tables. The party is trekking through a desolate wasteland, the wind howling like desperate souls. They're on edge. A desperate mother hired them to find her lost daughters. They've met those kids before, so of course the party couldn't refuse. Suddenly, a cry pierces the air. Little girl voices, desperate.
Someone, please, help. We're hurt.
It sounds exactly like the girls they're looking for. They round a jagged outcrop, and here they are. A grotesque hyena. At its feet are maimed, tiny corpses. The cry comes again from the beast's maw, mimicking the girl's voice, with chilling perfection. Help as it lunges forward. This monster is clearly something that exists without God's consent. The appearance of this monster is just completely fucked. Lore-wise, these TR3 beasts are tied to demon lords, similar to gnolls, or they're referred to as twisted alchemical experiments, stalking wastelands and using their uncanny mimicry abilities to lure their prey. If you want to use them, you need to know that they don't just kill. They like to toy with their victims, imitating loved ones' voices to either lure in rescuers or sow despair. Completely psychotic monsters. They have a chaotic evil alignment for a good reason. I've run these, and what ends up happening is that your players will start questioning every single cry for help, even from allies. If you want to use them in fights, I recommend putting up some heavy fog, as it enables a very memorable strategy. Leucrotas are super strong, meaning that they can easily come in melee, grapple someone, and then drag them away in the fog. And if you try to give chase by listening to the cries for help, well, which one is the real one? The voice calling out for help on your right, on your left, behind you? Like I said, absolutely cursed. La rivedere.